Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to my review of a watch that I'm heralding loud and proud front and centre as the best field watch you can buy for under $200 US. Because I think on balance it probably is. But let's be honest, there isn't that much competition. Indeed, this watch's stiffest competitor is its granddad. More on that later. It is of course the Seiko SRPG 27, one of a range of new Seiko 5 field style watches that came out probably about 6 months ago. I'm a bit late picking one up. I bought mine from Neil Watson at Watson's Jewelers down in Tassie. If you're in Oz, I'll leave a link to him in the description of the video. He looked after me, I'm sure he'll look after you as well. If you're in the USA, I suggest eBay for these. Plenty of them, including most of the different colour versions for under $200. That clearly is your target price today. I wouldn't be paying too much beyond $200 for one of these. And because it's a Seiko, even though it's a brand new model, I feel it could have been a little bit better. Let's flip the camera and have a look at it. Okay, so because it's a Seiko, it comes in one of these very familiar white cardboard boxes. Because it's a Seiko, where you buy it from will determine the length of the warranty that you receive with the watch. If you buy it from a Seiko boutique in your local region, in your local country, you'll get a full 5-year warranty. If you buy it from a Seiko authorized dealer, you will get a 3-year warranty. If you buy it from overseas, if you buy it from Amazon or eBay, for example, you will more than likely only get a 1-year international warranty. So do bear that in mind. Do check the small print when you're purchasing if a warranty is going to be a big factor for you. And there it is. Now, no gold star today for working out what Seiko have done here with this new Seiko 5 field style watch. They have effectively replaced 2 older models with one. This one fits exactly in between the Snz G and the SNK, 2 watches which have been around for donkey's years. The Snz G is a 42, the SNK is a 37, this one is a 39.4, almost exactly in the middle of those 2 sizes. So then 39.4mm in diameter, 13.4mm thick, which is perhaps a little bit thicker than it ought to be. Typically compact Seiko lug to lug though, 47.6 with 20mm lug width. Now there is a bit of taper down to 18, back up to just over 20 at the clasp. Sized up for me, 7-inch wrist. Maybe I should add another link in though, it's a bit tight to be honest. More on that later. This one weighs in at 132 grams. So we have a push-pull crown with 100 meters of water resistance. That is a piece of single dome. There's a little bit of distortion there at the edges of the viewing angle. Hard Lex Crystal. So you get hard Lex, which is Seiko's own proprietary mineral crystal. All stainless construction, 3-piece case with a fixed bezel there and a display case back. I'll show you that in just a second. The bracelet is exactly what you would expect from Seiko for less than $200. Not very good. It's finished okay and it is comfortable, I will give it that, but yeah, technically it's not the best. It's pretending to be a 3-link oyster, but there's only 1 link. Push pins, hollow end links and a cheap pressed clasp all round, pressed upper, pressed lower. It does have a reasonable double security, nice click there, and it is stamped in there. But yeah, not the best. My biggest moan about it though is only 2 holes of micro adjust. Why, Seiko? Why? Case finish is fine if unspectacular. Now being a field watch, you don't want too much bling, so all the top surfaces are brushed, but they have given us a high polished side. They've also given us drilled lugs, which I think is a welcome addition. I will pop it on a couple of suitably retro style straps a bit later on for you. Now one welcome upgrade over the old Seiko 5 field watches that I showed you earlier on is that is of course a 4-arm movement. In this case it's the 4R36 because it has a day-date complication on the front as opposed to the 4R35 which just has a date. It hacks and it hand winds, so Seiko finally moving into the 21st century. More or less. The old 7S26, 7S36 did neither of those things. This one has 24 joules, roughly 40-hour power reserve, stated tolerances of -15 to +25 seconds per day. Let's pop this one on the time grapher and see whether I've got a god or a dud. Or something in between. From experience, and I have plenty of experience of these movements, believe me, they generally come in on the time grapher in that flat on their back position at around +10. So this one is true to form at +8 seconds per day, 21,600 vibrations per hour, so it's a 3 Hz movement. 6 ticks of the second hand per second. Therefore, these are arguably all anyone actually needs in the back of their watch, and I do appreciate the day date complication. I think the day date looks good on the dial, particularly as they have colour matched the date wheel and the day wheel. Easy to do if you're Seiko and you're manufacturing the movements yourself, but always a nice touch and not one you see all that often on non-in-house watches for less than $200, let's put it that way. They have also upgraded the dials from the old Seiko 5s in a couple of other ways. They have applied those Arabics. So we have applied Arabics all the way around apart from the 3 from 1 to 12. Plus we have applied hour markers beyond that set on a minute track. Little triangle at 12, rectangles at 3, 6 and 9, and small squares everywhere else. Reminds me of the Hamilton khaki field Interstellars. They're the ones with that kind of similar look with applied silver Arabics and silver indices as well. Seiko logo is also applied, and I'm getting used to that Seiko Superman S that they've stuck underneath there. Automatic script above the 6, very reminiscent of the Seiko Sarb, and the smaller 13 to 24 also in a kind of printed silver just inside those big applied silver numerals. Now they've carried over the fence post style hands from the previous Seiko 5 field watches, but rather than just being painted white, these ones have brushed silver surfaces to them. I quite like it. It goes with those applied indices and the applied Arabics. Also carried over is that little pop of colour, the tip of the second hand, and the second hand is a nice length as well, reaching all the way out to that minute track. Classic field watch looks and an attention to detail you don't necessarily expect on a $200 Seiko. Now it's obviously not a dive watch, but you do get a reasonable amount of lume for your money. Those applied indices on the outer edge have got a little bit, the hands have got more of it, and the hands really, that's what you want to be hanging on there. If we crank the speed up here, yeah, you can see those indices fade quite quickly, but the hands are doing a reasonable job. Lumi Bright is always okay, never outstanding, and this is okay, not outstanding. That's it on wrist. I have got a 7-inch wrist for your reference, and it wears very well on me. I do like this size, kind of slightly smaller than a 40. I have owned both of the other watches that I referred to, and this is definitely the one that I would choose in terms of wear. Inverted mid-link of the end-link means a 47.5 lug to lug is true. It doesn't jut out any further. It conforms to the wrist very well, but I could probably add another link in here, to be honest. Drilled lugs, I'm going to show you a couple of different straps. This is the plain one. There is a 14-inch version of this that I think is a little more retro. It would probably suit the straps I'm going to show you even more than this one. I'm not sure why, but I think this thing looks great on a Tropic. It also takes a chunk of weight off, coming down to 80 grams, so a full 50 grams saved if you take off the bracelet and put on a lighter rubber strap. Doesn't look too bad on a little bit of vintage cross-stitched Horween either, I don't think. And of course, field watches and NATO straps are natural bedfellows, though I'd have been more comfortable putting a double pass NATO underneath something that wasn't 13.4 millimeters thick, to be honest. And overhead legibility is excellent. The smaller SNKs, the 37mm Seiko 5s, really suffered a little bit, I think, because of that smaller dial size and smaller hand length. This one at 39.4, yeah, you don't notice a difference at all. Nice and legible. And you know what? That domed Hardlex is actually okay when you're outside as well. I don't imagine there's too much, if any, anti-reflective undercoating, but you wouldn't notice it really. It's still pretty good, even in a decent amount of Sydney ambient lighting in my back garden. On wrist, short lug to lug with downturn from the case, inverted mid-link of the end link, all combine to wear very, very sweetly on the average size wrist. But even with 10 years between model upgrades and a clean slate to design a new field watch for the next generation, I don't think they got it entirely right. It's a Seiko. Now I know you can get better specs for $200 than this. If you go to AliExpress, you can buy a San Martin with sapphire and a fantastic bracelet for well under $200. That's not part of the equation today. Big brand watches, if you're going to get a Seiko, you know there are going to be a couple of compromises. Mineral crystal more than likely, unsigned crown more than likely, very rudimentary case finishing more than likely. And I'm kind of okay with that. I will accept those compromises. What I won't really accept, or at least not comfortably, is a bracelet that is not all that fantastic. It's rattly, it's squeaky, it's generally cheap feeling, and because it only has 2 holes of micro adjust, effectively one either way. You're not guaranteed a comfortable fit on this. Why, oh why, Seiko, don't you extend that clasp out and give us 2 more holes? Hollow end links, again, it's a cost-cutting measure, but it's not the end of the world. What is the end of the world though is if a watch is not a good fit. That's the thing they should have fixed, and for some reason they haven't. And then of course there's Grandad, the SNZ G13 that I mentioned in the intro and I've referenced a couple of times since then. It's a handsome, big watch, this one. Great lume. I do like the 2-step dial. Because it's a larger dial, it is somewhat cleaner and easier to read as well. The numerals are more pronounced and I like that step around the outer edge where the big Arabics are. Now obviously it's a 42mm watch with 22mm lug width, and the bracelet is just as shoddy as on the new SRPG. But if you're okay with that size, I think this one is still worth a look, despite its shortcomings, despite the 7S36 movement. You can buy these on eBay for $150. I found one from Creation Watches in Singapore for $140, plus taxes, etc, etc. Obviously, so do bear that in mind. That is a chunk of change cheaper than the new Seiko Field Watch for the hacking and hand winding movement. That really is materially the only big difference. So best field watch under $200? Yes, definitely. It's still a very well-rounded, strong overall package, and it has the best brand name you can get just about for $200 on the dial of the watch. But there is another watch that has the same brand name on the dial and pretty much the same set of specifications that's available for $50 to $60 less than this one. So what I'm saying today is that if you don't end up buying a Seiko, you should probably buy a Seiko. So there you have it, new but not necessarily all that improved. If you like this size, 39mm, go for it. If you prefer a bigger watch, check out the old model, check out the SRPG 13. I still think there's value to be had there. If you want to spend twice the budget, buy a Hamilton Khaki King. Thanks for watching, I'll see you soon.